Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for us now to get tuned to the LIS Academy Distinguished Lecture Series. I, Dr. Meera, former librarian of Raman Research Institute, Bangalore, privileged and honored to welcome you all to the second lecture today, the second Saturday of December 2020. As you all are aware, the inaugural lecture was delivered by Padma Bhushan Professor P. Balram, former director of the Indian Institute of Science, on 14th November, and he addressed us on the topic Science Publishing, Greed, Vanity, and the Decline of Scholarship. Today we have another eminent speaker, Professor Anil D. Sahasrabudhe, Chairman, All India Council for Technical Education, New Delhi. He has chosen the most current and pertinent topic at this juncture when whole dynamics of education system of our country is changing. The topic is role of libraries in implementation of NEP 2020 framework. Today's program is presided by another distinguished personality, Professor Karisiddappa, Vice Chancellor, Visvesvaraya Technological University, Belagavi, Karnataka. Before proceeding to introduce and welcome our renowned guests, I take 2 minutes to share details of the LISA Distinguished Lecture Series. Monthly LISA Distinguished Lecture Series of Eminent Personalities is an initiative of LIS Academy, Bangalore. The speakers of the series are nationally and internationally acclaimed academicians and research scientists who used their libraries and admire them for their success. The idea of LISA Distinguished Lecture Series is to bring in diverse opinions, expectations of the policymakers from the profession of librarianship, managers, administrators, and professional leaders. The eminent LIS leaders will also be among the speakers to address contemporary trends, issues, technologies related to LIS profession. With this brief introduction of the Distinguished Lecture Series, now I take this opportunity to introduce our guest speaker, Professor Anil D. Sahasrabudhe. Professor Anil Dattatreya Sahasrabudhe graduated from BVB College of Engineering and Technology, Hubli, affiliated to Karnataka University, Dharwad, Karnataka State, in Mechanical Engineering with first rank and gold medal in 1980. Subsequently, he obtained master's and doctoral degree from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore in 1982 and 1989 respectively. Professor Sahasrabudhe joined All India Council for Technical Education as chairman on 17th July 2015. Before this, he has held several important academic, research and administrative positions at Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, Tata Consulting Engineers, Northeastern Regional Institute of Science and Technology, Itanagar, and IIT Guwahati. He also served as Director, College of Engineering, Pune since 2006 on deputation from IIT Guwahati prior to joining as AICTE Chairman. As an academician and administrator, he has taken up several new initiatives for academic, curricular, and co-curricular activities, entrepreneurship, research, and good governance. He has been bestowed with several awards, which include Maha Entrepreneur Award 2011 of Praj Industries, Jeevan Gaurav Puraskar, Lifetime Achievement Award from MIT World Peace University, Pune in 2019, Mahatma Gandhi Leadership Award from Indian Achievers Forum and CSR Times in 2019. Sir, it's my privilege to welcome you on behalf of LIS Academy and on my personal behalf to this program. We are eager to listen to your deliberation on the most important topic of academia today. Over to you, sir.
Good morning and namaskar to all of you. President of LIS Academy, Dr. P.V. Konnur, Vice Chancellor of VTU, Dr. Karisiddappa, all the library professionals, enthusiasts who have attending this particular webinar series. I thank the Academy for inviting me for this monthly series of lectures. I'm given to understand that LIS Academy has been doing a lot of good work, in fact, great work in terms of conducting workshops, seminars for library science professionals, including 6 weekend programs, then monthly series, lots of career counseling workshops. I think this is a phenomenal task for the library professionals that Dr. Kannur and his team is conducting for all these years. The professionals who have joined this particular workshop, and also budding librarians and also students of library science, both at bachelor's and master's level, who are attending this. I compliment you for taking time off for learning something different during this particular pandemic period, in particular when the new National Education Policy was announced on the 29th of July 2020. I also came to understand that Professor Balram, very well-known scientist and also the director of Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore for a long time, now retired but still not tired, and he had given the first lecture. I'm lucky to have come here as a leadership talk series a second time, and I'm sure whatever little I know, I would like to share, and then based on that, certainly there may be some learning which you will take forward into your professions. There have been often a question which is asked to all of us, especially the professional education takers, that employability is a big issue, whether it is engineering, whether it is pharmacy, architecture, law, or even library science. Of course, in terms of medical science and some other fields, this question is not asked because they are all self-sufficient to start their own careers. But in library science, depending on number of institutions that have come up, people often say that how do they get into the profession, how do they get employed. This is one aspect which I'm sure LIS Academy has been continuously addressing and is very, very important. It is not merely entering into the profession, but how do you develop your profession, how do you promote your profession, how do you develop leadership. And essentially this particular domain of knowledge is so significant for everyone that in fact it is like a service. You are providing service. Like in the COVID times, we say that there are corona warriors. It is not just doctors, but the nurses, the policemen, the army people, those who are taking care of them through giving food, all of them are corona warriors. Something similar in the knowledge domain. I think the role that is played by the library and information science professionals is akin to that. They are the warriors for the leadership role that they take in terms of providing knowledge, information, and cater the service, which is so essential for all of us. And that's why you must have your own goal, vision, mission, service to humanity indirectly. And I will touch upon, of course, NEP a little later, but a word about the library itself and the library science. In my opinion, library is like the heart of the institution. Any university, college, it is the heart. And now we have computer centers in every institution. It is like the brain of the college or the university. So these are very significant. The brain and the heart, they work in cohesion with each other. And that's why the entire information or the knowledge is going to be circulated, is being made available through the library, through the use of computer center. Therefore, it is like heart and brain combination. But when I was thinking about these two body parts, I thought about others as well. For example, the sports fields is so essential, and we had neglected it in our academic institutions. In the new education policy, there is a mandatory sports activity for every student. And in fact, what we often say that this should not be treated as extracurricular activities. Earlier, we were calling extracurricular. Slowly, we moved on to becoming co-curricular. Now it is part of the curriculum. One can take few credits out of sports field as well. So the sports is like the lungs of the university, of the college, because we get a lot of breathing that takes place, fresh air, and therefore it is the lungs of the university. Then when we go into the classroom, we learn from the teachers, The classroom lectures are there. There are tutorials. There is learning through the peers. And it is like years of the institution. The laboratory spaces where we do experiential learning. We do actually activity by hand. And that is like eyes. We see them, we observe them, we inculcate them, and that is like a laboratory. And we have the tongue and the taste buds. We have a canteen. We have lots of discussions in the canteen, and that is like the tongue and the taste. And every institution, we have been asking today to have an innovation lab in their institution. So this innovation lab, or the counselors or the incubator, mentor who are there, they all sensitize, they all feel, and that's why it is like skin. Only feels. When you touch a person, you feel that. And that feeling of warmth which comes through the skin and that is touched by the individual, you will get it from the innovation lab, in the incubators, in the counselors meetings, mentors meetings. And every institution has lots of trees, plants, gardens, and we get beautiful smell of the flowers. I think that is the nose of the institution. So I think there are all these body parts which are there in the educational institution, which we draw from the nature, and this is very, very significant and important. And out of all of this, if something does not function, the whole body collapses. That is the heart. And that's why library and the library science has importance of that of the heart. Even a moment it doesn't function, everything collapses. I think therefore library and librarians must feel proud that they are in a particular segment which is like the living entity for the entire organization of the educational institution. Now, coming to the part of the new education policy, which I'm going to deal with today, there are multiple things which have been talked about in this policy, and there is a big role that the librarians, library science personnel, or the libraries themselves are going to play in this future of the education that is going to happen in our country. I will only talk about few important elements because it's a very broad policy. Starting with school education to the higher education, I will deal very briefly and then come back to some other important related things. Number one, this policy is a continuum of the old policies. It's not that it's completely different, but there are many things where emphasis has been laid for the first time. Heavy emphasis has been laid. Secondly, there are transformational new things which have come for the first time also. So, for example, autonomy to be given to the colleges and universities has been talked about since independence in all the policies, but it was not taken very seriously. This policy has given deadlines. By 2035, there should be no college or university which is non-autonomous. All the colleges should become degree awarding institutions. And we don't want this 40,000 plus 10,000 plus, that is 50,000 institutions which exist today. 40,000 of them affiliated to different 1,000 odd universities and other 10,000 standalone institutions. How can you combine all of them into a very few, maybe 3,000? And none other than any institution which has less than 3,000 should continue. So the idea is either amalgamation, coalition of several institutions coming together and reducing the number of degree awarding institutions to about 2,500 to 3,000 from 50,000. I think that is one area which is going to be playing a very significant role, and that is where again library will have a role. Well, all these institutions had smaller libraries, and I have some interesting anecdotes which I will tell a little later in terms of regulatory framework which used to happen quite often. But leave apart that, but how different libraries of small colleges can come together and work together in a collaborative mode, giving information, giving knowledge to our students or teachers. I think that is researchers. That is one area which we may have to address in this. Then this particular policy also plays or pays a lot of emphasis on the teaching learning in the mother tongue of the students. This is very, very important because we gave lip sympathy to mother tongue teaching learning all along, but this time it is said that up to the first 5 years plus 3 years, that means current what we call it as fifth standard, or in the new policy when you start the education at the age of 3, the first 5 years which are the foundational years, and the subsequent 3 years also little more foundational years, all of that has to be in the mother tongue, so that a child, when from the home he or she comes into the schooling system, it is a natural continuum, and rather than an abrupt change that at home he speaks Kannada or Tamil, and suddenly when he comes into the school, it is all English or Hindi. I think that shock should not be there to the children. And that's why, as they enter into the schooling system, they can learn that three language formula, multiple languages. How can they learn them? I think this has to be learned through way of stories, games, plays, rather than by writing and reading those scripts and making tension amongst the students. I think this is a very fundamental change. And therefore, library has a role here. What kind of toys, what kind of books? See, we are all thinking that library means only the books or the journals, but how even probably educational tools will become part of the library, and thereby students will get issued some tool, that means some toy, and then play with it, understand that, and that is what is going to be a beginning right in the school time itself. From the school to the high school to the college, there are several things which are likely to happen. Then after the present sixth standard, that means what I said, 5 plus 3 years of education from the year age 3 to age 11, when they get into the sort of presently what we call probably secondary or whatever, that phase is the one where a lot of skill development, vocational education is going to happen. And when we say vocational, it is now little beyond the toys, and we may have to have different types of tools, equipment, where they, similar to the toys, they go ahead with that. I remember in our childhood, we used to play a game called Meccano. There were lots of items, and we used to connect them, join them, railway track or signaling. All of that, we used to do it using certain screws, spanners, and some metal elements and all of that stuff. So I think that is where skilling starts. But it is not just such skilling, but even maybe carpentry, maybe welding, maybe electronics technician, even artificial intelligence, computer programming. All of these are required to be brought in the school level itself. And therefore, in the new national education policy, library will have a multifaceted role. It is certainly books, story books, reading books, the textbooks, reference books, journals, magazines. There's all part of that. But beyond that also, there are going to be newer elements which are likely to be added for making education interesting, lively, and enjoyable. I think that is the spirit of the new national education policy. We go ahead, then we come to the higher education. I already said that there should be less number of institutions, and none of the institutions should have a strength of less than 3,000. Today, there are institutions who have only 500 strength, 400 strength, 500,000, much, much less than 3,000, and they are not viable in terms of number of faculty, number of support staff, number of overheads that are required. I think they do not survive. Either they have to charge heavy fee, or they will give substandard, sub-quality education. And that's why it is important to coalesce, work together, and then number of institutions on one side get reduced. And on the other side, we will also have larger institutions whereby the cost will come down. When you have large institutions, the overheads will automatically come down. So I think these two things will make the education affordable, of the quality also. I think this is another area. Therefore, libraries have to also work out how they can come together. Now, coming to the other aspects which the policy talks about is very essentially, first time, very focused way, it is told about multidisciplinary nature of universities. In fact, universities by definition are supposed to be multidisciplinary. But unfortunately, over the years, gradually we started specializing, and so much so that we have a special law university, medical university, technical university, and so on and so forth. In the process, the taste of other type of education, which every child has to get it, for the holistic development, we have started losing it. And that's why this policy had to re-enunciate the role of the university of that of being multidisciplinary, so that a student will get the taste of everything. A student of mechanical engineering may be interested in music. Why should you not learn one subject of music? I recollect that famous movie, Three Idiots, where those students were not interested in engineering, but they were thrust into that. Someone was interested in photography and something like this. What will happen to those kids? I think, therefore, if a student is interested in music or photography while he's studying engineering, if there are a couple of courses where he can even take them as credit courses, his enthusiasm and interest will remain, and he will do well in both photography, music, as well as in his own engineering field. And therefore, multidisciplinary education has become important. So those universities and colleges which were similar to what we say technical university or medical university may have to expand their base and add books of all variety, not just of their discipline, maybe sociology, maybe psychology, maybe music, dance, drama. All of this has to become part of their library, and therefore I think this is very significant in terms of the library science, its growth, its the breadth that is going to increase in the years to come. So this is one part. The second very important part this policy talks about is that of exit and entry. So if I get into the system and I find myself not so interested in this field because I didn't know about the background, because some parents or my friends and relatives or peers, all of them took admission, I also took admission. Now I find that this is not of my interest. So if that person quits, all that what he has learned goes waste way. So the new policy allows him to take with some certificate, or if he has spent little more time, a diploma, and go out with those credits. Not only that, there is a talk about academic bank of credits. Like library has the stock of library books, there will be academic bank of credits, a software where every student with his ID will be storing all the courses that he has done in that particular college or university, and he can carry it forward. Either he can go to another institution of a different discipline, use this wherever how much is required to be used out of that, or he can come back to that institution sometime later and again restart from where he had left, rather than today. If someone leaves the institution, there are rules that after 5 years, if it is a 3-year program, if a student has not completed, he has to quit and he has to restart from the first year. So this policy allows multiple times exit and entry. And this will facilitate many a times students who have great difficulty. Maybe there are family problems, someone's income has suddenly reduced, there is a death in the family, there is an accident. So a child suddenly has to lose that particular education and go out. Maybe he has to do or she has to do a job for some time. And if that person wants to come back, there is no provision today. So this provision is also given in this particular policy. And therefore, this policy tries to create an ambience which is useful, good for every citizen of the country. So that education is not a burden. Education should be felt as empowering. Education should be felt as the joyful one. I think that is what this talks about. And the library, as I said, has a role. Well, if a student comes to the library and he does not get what he is requiring to get or he is looking for, then he gets disturbed. So this service which the library resource persons are providing to our students is going to be very, very elaborate and very, very focused in the new policy. There are many other aspects. I will touch some of them again. What we call STEM education is also being expanded to call it as STEAM education. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. What was STEM has been added with this A, and A stands for multiple things. A stands for attitude, aptitude. A stands for applied various types of subjects like arts, humanities, and social sciences. And therefore, in my opinion, the new education policy has a lot of width and also to some extent depth. That's why quite often we give an example of T. There is a width and there is a depth. So every student, when he goes through this particular new education policies initiative in his or her college, maybe 5 years down the line, this will all be functional. A student will have enough width so that he can migrate from one domain to the other domain much easier than what he is able to do today. That means if a student has got into engineering, it is not necessary that he has to continue with the engineering discipline. He may get into maybe law. He will do some courses of law and then get into the legal profession. This is possible. Similarly, someone in the medical field gets excited by different types of music and he wants to become a musician. Today also some people do it. They are out of the box, very few examples and exceptions. But tomorrow, anyone who has such taste will also be allowed to do that. I think this is very, very fundamentally different. And everywhere it is the library science people and librarians who are going to play a very significant role. It is in terms of analytical skills, reasoning, written skills, number crunching, right hand, brain activities, left hand brain activities, logical thinking. All of that requires different types of what I call instruments. Library books are also an instrument. There are tools, there can be software, they are also instruments. The teachers, the mentors, they are also instruments. All of them will shape the new generation of students who are ethical, who are value based, who are having morally strong grounding. All of that will come through variety of innovative ways, creative ways, holistic ways, intuition based ways, 3D form learning ways. And that's why this new policy has elements where we will understand little later, after 1 or 2, 3 years of cycles of learning, there may be some mistakes that we may likely to do, but in the process, there are many variety of new skills which everyone has to acquire: students, faculty, and even library science professionals. And that is where I will come back to that later. Little bit history. We often say that this library science has all come from the West. I was just looking into history, whether it is Bavarian library system based on nature-oriented elements, or Schrodinger's alphabetical order system, or Columbia University in 1887 Melville Dewey system. We all know the classification which is done is on the Dewey decimal classification. Either it is in the form of the subject indexes which are there. But when we are talking about multidisciplinary, a book may be having elements which are cross between, say, I'm talking about within engineering, mechanical engineering, and electronics. For example, mechatronics. Now, where should that book go? Whether it should be in mechanical engineering or in electronics. There could be subjects where artificial intelligence or Internet of Things is there, where even sociology and engineering may be coming together. Maybe psychology and engineering is coming together. There are subjects where biology and engineering is coming together, where there is psychology and biology is coming together. In medical science, there is a lot of things where the doctors may have to treat based on the psychology of the patient. Therefore, there are all variety of transdisciplinary areas, and there could be books, journals of this nature. So where do they get located? I think therefore a new way of thinking, new way of looking at all of this is likely to emerge much more than what it exists. Today also there are some books, but tomorrow when we say multidisciplinary, transdisciplinary education will gain more importance, more people will write books of this nature. And secondly, there can be books also in the local languages, in the mother tongue. In Bangalore, maybe in Kannada, in Tamil Nadu, maybe in Tamil, in Andhra Pradesh, in Telugu, and so on. So these language books are also equally important. There can be books of skill development, very essential for our new education policy, where we are talking about skills right from 6th standard onwards, so that by the end of 12th standard, he is fully equipped to at least do 1 or 2 types of different jobs, get employed. I think these areas need to be addressed not only in terms of pedagogy, that means the curriculum, the delivery of the curriculum in terms of the classroom teaching learning, maybe internet based teaching learning, which has become more prominent during the COVID times, all online education, online seminars, online conferences, online meetings, online workshops. And I think that is going to continue because we have been enriched by making use of this technology all these last 8, 9 months. Because earlier 1 or 2 people were doing it, but today it is in compulsion. We cannot travel, and therefore all the meetings are held, all the workshops, all the seminars. I will come to a very phenomenal thing which AICT has done in the last 8 months. Of course, in the first 1 or 2 months, we were waiting whether the lockdown will get lifted, but it didn't happen. We had various faculty development programs being conducted in all emerging areas like artificial intelligence, 3D printing, machine learning, AI, IoT. Then we also had 3D printing, ke alawa the robotics. We had the blockchain. We had augmented reality, virtual reality, cloud computing, cyber security, data analytics. These are all important subjects for the new generation, for creating new jobs, for getting employment. And if faculty do not know this, it was a difficulty in carrying out those curricula. And therefore, we had these faculty development workshops under Atal Academy. In the last 1.5 years prior to pandemic, we could train only about 9,000 odd teachers by conducting nearly 200 workshops. And in this period, in just about 100 workshops, half the workshops, we could train double 20,000. And that gave us the strength in the beginning. And now we have completed 565 workshops, trained more than 85,000 faculty in these last 5 months. And then taking forward in the next 4 5 months, we have already been rolling out another 500 workshops and training 1.5 lakh faculty members in all these domains. So technology empowerment has taken place, which will also help the library system. I'm aware in my college days, in the early time, we used to go to the library and then there was a catalog box and we will go and look at the title, which was arranged alphabetical names, and then the title of the book or the author of the book. And then we will find out in which rack it is there and go and find out that it is not existing there because there was no computerization. And therefore, I will keep looking at various almiras if there is an alternative book available. So all those days are gone. And I also remember some funny elements in the library that the rules used to be there that you can issue a book for only 15 days. And after that, someone can book a book and it has to be withdrawn from the earlier user and given to the next user. So people used to give one day before, and then when it is given back to the library, they will have librarian or the assistants would have kept it in the right rack. The student will get in and then pick up and then put it in some other rack, so that that student who has booked will come one day later and will look for it and he will not get it, and then 4 5 days he will lose his interest, and this fellow again goes, see, he had booked but he had not got it issued, so I will reissue it myself. So they were playing such tricks. Today, with the help of technology, this is not possible. You can scan the entire library using RFID scanners and then find out where the book is located, wrongly located. Cameras are there. People cannot have any mischief of this nature. I think these are all changes which have been happening in the library science. But forget about the Western world and the library science which has evolved. We have respect for all of that, which has really helped in systematization of that. But get back to our own library system in Nalanda University, which was there from around till 12th century AD, starting from the beginning of our AD era to 12th century AD. Nalanda University, prior to that Takshila University, had great libraries. Nalanda University, it is said, had 7-story building, and there were huge collection of books. And when it was actually finally destroyed and burned, it kept burning for 6 long months. So it means the system of library, the storage, and the maintenance, preservation of the library books was existing in our country itself. But now it is in a different format. We have physical books. We have also what is known as soft copy books, PDF files, and all of that also need to be maintained on the servers, on the cloud, so that anyone can get access anytime. Whereas in the physical library, we have to go and sit in the library and get the book issued or read there or go to home and read. Now today, most of that can be scanned and put onto the web, and any student who wants to make use of it, a same book can be used by multiple people today simultaneously, which was not the case earlier. So I think these are the powers of technology. Therefore, how a library science professional has to make use of all of this in the new education policy for engagement, for empowerment is very important. So the new practices have to emerge. Your perspective has to change. Your attitude has to change. The new tools of management, which are continuously evolving. We all know in the last 30, 40 years, we are all used to computerization, and therefore softwares like Lipsys or open source software like Koha, and then there are other 7 8 software, I don't remember the names, but all of them are under use by different libraries depending on their capacity. And there are huge number of facilities that exist on this software. So it is so user friendly, library friendly, that means entire stakeholder friendly, that by sitting at your place, you know whether the book is available, not available, whether it is in PDF file or it is in the hard copy format. And also journals. I remember in my early time of research, journals used to come by mostly by ship. And after the journal was published, sometimes it used to take 4 to 5 months for the journal to be shipped and come to Indian shores and then into the libraries. Of course, some important journals were coming by air, so they were coming within 8-10 days. But otherwise, most other less important journals, no one would spend so much money on the air. Therefore, they were all coming by ship also. So from that era to instantaneously making available that resource today on the laptop, on the computer, on the mobile phone, smartphone, and you can read it while traveling. Think what a phenomenal change that has happened, whether it is books or journals for empowering our research. So the role of librarian is how a user, a professional will have to use that, and then how you empower them. I think this is where library science personnel, information science personnel have a duty to learn new techniques, new things which are happening, and pass it on to not only your students but also to all other students, because as I said, you are the heart of the educational institution. So it has to pump blood continuously to keep the other elements survive. And that is why the catalog or the software lips says how to use it by you and your students and faculty members. Quite often you may have to conduct workshops for making them aware of all of that. And then there is earlier we used to have inter-library collaboration for book transfers. So each library used to issue some cards to another institution library, and some of those people who are interested would be issued that card. They will go physically travel and collect that. Today, if you have a PDF file, or you can scan a document and that is submitted, transmitted to another institution so easily, directly to the user. Forget about the librarian itself. We have National Digital Library established in IIT Kharagpur, huge resource. There are crores of documents and books and journals. All of that rich material is available, and now slowly they have also arranged that so that it is searchable by various types of keywords. Whether it is in terms of alphabetically or in terms of keywords like technology or science or you can take fruits or plants, and then it will give all the books related with that or the documents related with that, and you can scan through that and make use of whatever resource you are interested in. I think all of that, yeah, of course we have in Ahmedabad the Inflibnet, which is also empowering. And you from this Academy of LIS are also supporting in terms of education, in terms of various types of resources that are being produced. So I think in terms of new national education policy, for which I was asked to talk about, there are elements for the library science professionals to proactively approach the educational institutions in different manner. Now, not only educational institutions, I will step back and I will come back to the industry part of it. Why I'm coming to industry is quite often in our technical field, we often say that students are not employable because they don't get the taste of what happens actually in the industry. And that's why we have made internship mandatory. Every student has to go to an industry for at least 6 months. And this practice was very much there right from beginning in the medical profession. After their 4.5 years of education, they have to necessarily go to a hospital which is normally attached to their own college, but otherwise also somewhere for 1 full year and look at the patients along with the senior doctor, get trained. Only then they can get the license to practice. Whereas in other professions, maybe library science as well, maybe in engineering, maybe in many other fields, of course, architecture also has mandatory internship for quite some time. But all other fields, whether it is pharmacy, arts, commerce, science, we don't have any internship. And straight away after graduation, we get into the job and start learning slowly, steadily as part of the training in that organization where we are employed. And therefore, this scheme of industry institute interaction and thereby getting into the industry for internship for technical education is as much important as for the library science. And therefore, all graduates and postgraduates who are studying in the library science profession, they must spend at least 6 months or during their vacation into some library or the other. You may treat it with the stipend, without stipend. In fact, it is a win-win situation. Many times, many libraries require large manpower, and today there is a cut on the manpower, and therefore there is shortage of manpower in almost all the libraries. So a person can be employed sort of as an intern with a stipend which is much smaller than the actual salary, and a student gets a exposure, real life learning in the library, and then he can become an employable graduate and then get into any of the libraries. So internship is important even for the library science like us. And therefore, when I am referring now to industry, every industry must have a resource and library, and that is very important. Big companies, all of them have an excellent library. Some of those libraries of big companies like maybe TCS, maybe the Tata Motors, maybe Infosys, maybe the Maruti Udyog are better than many educational institutions, because they often get the latest journals in the field so that they can implement some of that research which is happening today in the Western world directly into their industry. And therefore, they would like to have this resource at their disposal. So industries also have libraries. Large scale industries certainly have. Medium scale industries probably are having few of them do not. But when it comes to very small and the startups, they don't have this access. So how we can create a collaborative environment and design a new set of libraries where, like common service center, where small startups, etc., get whatever machine they want to use for a particular product. They don't have that wherewithal to buy that equipment or that machine, which is costing crores of rupees. But there are common service centers, common machine centers, where there are hundreds of machines and there are employees who will run it for you, and then you pay a small fee, go and get that service. So similarly, maybe library service may be required to be offered to small startups so that their knowledge base continuously gets upgraded. They will start doing something new, which will be innovative, which will be useful for creating new products, and the economy also gets developed in the process. So I think in the new national education policy, the industry internship is also given a lot of priority, and that also we must make use of as part of the library science, and for supporting such kind of initiatives like startups and entrepreneurial ventures. So in nutshell, the policy has breathtaking new initiatives which are completely transformative, out of the box, game changing, and therefore it is not just all the educationists in India have appreciated, right from Kutch to the Kohima, that is from the extreme west to extreme east, Kohima in Nagaland, and from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, K to K and K to K. Everyone has appreciated this policy because there is everything for everyone. And not just in India, many countries have started looking at it, even the advanced countries. They are saying that we also did not think of so much reform in education as your committee has thought of. And I thank Dr. Kasturi Rangan, who also comes from Bangalore, for giving this policy to the nation. The Kasturi Rangan committee, along with all the people who worked for it, and then the ministry adopted it. And this was the one where huge consultations happened, right from panchayat level, that means at the local 2.5 lakh panchayats, to the prime minister, panchayat to prime minister. Everyone was associated, therefore it is accepted by everyone. Now is the task of implementation. And whatever I spoke for about last half an hour or so is all about how we can really make use of the content that is there in the policy into action. So unless there is action, there is no use of good policy. A good policy keeping in the rack or keeping in the form of circulars and sending to everyone has no meaning. Prime Minister very focused way said, पॉलिसी तो अच्छी है, लेकिन जब तक इम्प्लीमेंटेशन नहीं होगा, उसका कोई नतीजा नहीं आएगा, तो अच्छा नहीं है. तो आई थिंक देयरफॉर मेकिंग स्ट्रेटजी फॉर इम्प्लीमेंटेशन, having our commitment for that, and then reviewing that from time to time. If you do that in the next 10 to 15 years, our library science professionals, by helping the educational institutions, will create new Nalandas and Takshilas in this country. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Sir, thank you very much for introducing us to the National Education Policy and making it so simple to understand. We know the amount of hard work which has undergone in making this draft ready for presentation. Particularly, I am a witness as former librarian of Raman Research Institute. I have seen lot of activities happening at Raman Research Institute under the leadership of Dr. K. Kasturirangan. All my fellow librarians will join me in thanking you for recognizing libraries as the heart of educational ecosystem. At each step of your presentation, you have shown the path for librarians in the new academic setup through NEP. This is certainly boosting our potential and help us in repositioning ourselves right from school libraries to college libraries to university libraries. You have also touched upon the maker's space aspect of involving libraries at every stage of learning process in academic institutions. You have also highlighted the importance of internship, which has been there in medical profession for a long time. Sir, I would like to bring it to your kind notice that most of the library schools in our country send their students for internship program to esteemed libraries to enable them to learn the practical aspects of library functions and services. This is a requirement to get graduated. 38 years back, I remember working as an intern in CFTRI and CIIL library at Mysore. Finally, you have very nicely pointed out the 4 Ks. Kutch to Kohima, Kashmir to Kanyakumari, the appreciations received for NEP from all 4 corners of the country, and main personality responsible for this being another K, Dr. K. Kasturirangan. I am unable to stop myself from appreciating the nice backdrop of your office, having pictures of 4 iconic personalities of modern science in India. Great mathematician that the world has seen, Dr. Ramanujan, Nobel laureate Sir C.V. Raman, man behind atomic energy, Dr. Homi Bhabha, and the brain behind Indian space program, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. With this, I thank you once again for the nice deliberation. Now, I move on to introduce the president of this occasion, Dr. Professor Karisiddappa. Professor Karisiddappa obtained his Bachelor of Engineering degree in Civil Engineering from Mysore University, MTech in Structural Engineering from IIT Madras, and PhD in Structural Engineering from IIT Roorkee. Professor Karisiddappa has an extensive record in teaching and administration of 28 years. He has served as Principal of Malnad College of Engineering, Hassan, Principal of Government Engineering College, Hassan. He has served as Distinguished Member in many reputed professional bodies such as Fellow Institution of Engineers, International Society for Soil Mechanics and Geotechnical Engineering, Life Member of Indian Society for Wind Engineering. Professor Karisiddappa is presently serving for the second tenure as the Vice Chancellor of Visvesvaraya Technological University, Belagavi, Karnataka. Sir, we are honored to welcome you to preside over this second deliberation of Distinguished Lecture Series of LIS Academy. Sir, over to you.
Namaste to one and all. Respected Dr. Anil D.Sahasrabudhe ji, Honorable Chairman, AICTE New Delhi, Professor P.V. Konnur, President of LIS Academy Bangalore, other team members of LIS Academy Bangalore, my dear participants, principals of various engineering colleges and other institutions, the librarians from various colleges, participants from abroad, and other invitees, ladies and gentlemen. I am very much happy and delighted to be in this program. This being the Distinguished Lecture Series number 2, and you have heard about the importance of library, role of libraries in NEP 2020 framework, and distinguished speaker of this program, Professor Anil D.Sahasrabudhe ji, has addressed various issues, and also Professor has given you a lot of implementation challenges, and also you need to think to accommodate yourself as per the aspirations of NEP 2020 and also demanding needs of the present generation. Friends, in my opinion, the library and the librarians are extremely important component in our education system. And also, I was very much delighted to note the comparison made by Honorable AICTE Chairman, the library and the human body parts. The education is extremely important in not only in one's growth, but also in the growth of a nation or a country. And you play, especially the librarians, in all education institutions, a very important role. We have libraries in schools, we have libraries in colleges, we have libraries in universities, and in many of the industry places, and also in some of the innovation centers, and also in all our national laboratories and important research organizations in the country. Now, the present generation needs have changed, and also the way in which they use library have completely changed because of the technology interventions. Now, we need to upgrade our libraries. Not only that, we need to upgrade our librarians' education or the knowledge and the skill set. The librarians, as I said, will demonstrate their capabilities and also improve the quality of education rendered in an institution to a greater extent. In any education system, the librarians, physical director, hostel wardens, NSS coordinators, coordinators of science club, etc. are the best friend of the student community. Librarians and other coordinators I mentioned will be very, very close to the students, and more than as an officer, they will be more close as their friends. Students share their thoughts, students move closely with them. Sometimes they are so close because they would get 1 or 2 books extra from the librarian during the examination time, etc. Now, that kind of a connection between student and librarian will go in a long way in the learning environment. Therefore, librarians, sports director, and other officers like student welfare officer, etc., you work very closely with them, you observe them very closely. And you also need to know their aspirations and expectations. And with the new national education policy in place, we are trying to go towards multidisciplinary institutions. So therefore, the role of library and librarians become extremely important. We have a particular category of classification of books, journals, etc. now. But when you go for multidisciplinary, you have to rethink the way in which you classify your books and articles, because you will be having not only books of your own domain or institution required, books from other domain also. For example, a library in an engineering college not only deals with the books and journals of or reference books, etc., textbooks of engineering education, but also they need to deal with books of physics, chemistry, arts, science, mathematics, medical, other newer technology books, etc. It becomes very extremely challenging to make those kind of articles available and also it should be known to the students. Therefore, you may have to think about a facility which can aid them easily, which can make them use those books, journals, reference books or textbooks quite frequently. And also you must encourage them to read over and above the academic requirements, because we expect the graduates now to have more knowledge in their domain, and also they must gain skill set in one or two additional domains so that they become a graduate which are needed in the industry, which are needed in the society, or on their own they can also become entrepreneurs of their choice, either in the industry or in the agriculture field or in business, etc., etc. So therefore, this kind of a learning environment must be created in the library, and you must all implement the technologies in the library. The book service in terms of giving the books, registration of their requirements and taking them back, etc., should be completely handled by a very transparent system of technology. Now, already, especially in engineering colleges, you have already these things in place, but now you have to enhance them, you have to increase them. And libraries, not only they give books and serve the students in terms of enhancing their knowledge in reading textbooks or reference books or journals and whatever articles or some of the important books available, books from their domain, books from other domain, books from literature, etc. But also they need to have some more additional facilities created. You must have a good digital library. You must have a good reading place. You must have adequate and well ventilated halls for reading, well furnished, and also a space like makerspace like thing in all the libraries, so that the students are attracted to come to library, sit, they discuss, read and debate and learn in teams. Collaborative learning can happen in the space provided. And also we need to digitize our libraries. We need to interlink all our libraries, because the resources available from one library to other library vary, and also varieties of books can be useful to all the students. They can access remotely and they can borrow and give back to the respective libraries in online. E-resources have improved considerably. E-books are available in various form and publishers. So therefore, we need to interconnect libraries of all colleges so that we break the barrier. The library of engineering college, it should be accessible by the students studying in a medical college or in an arts and commerce college and vice versa. So that kind of a connectivity or collaborations established will go a long way in the improved learning curve of their students. Not only that, it can be open to others also. Like we open library to teachers, professors or research scholars, we can also open our libraries to the parents. All stakeholders can access the resources available. They are passionate about studying something, which they like. It can be open. It could be a membership extended to them, and it can all happen online. And these things will go beyond, and we use the resources available to the maximum extent. And some sort of confidence in the system will come, and they know if this A book is not available in this college, their ward can get same book from some other library available through internet or online, registration. So that kind of a connectivity will help us, and it will help us not only in terms of accessibility and availability, it will enhance the whole world, way of learning itself. And Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe compared to this art, it is really true. The library, if there is a failure or if there is a library which is not up to the standards in a college, it means that it has an inferior quality institution. It is my personal opinion. That's how you must have confidence in yourself in developing wonderful library facilities in colleges. And coming back to the role of librarians, we need to upgrade our skill set. You must be a computer savvy. You must know about search engines. You must know about how one can access the various literature or information available. And also, you must be a good guide to your students. When they come to your library, you can watch what kind of material they study, what are his or her aspirations, in what domain they are interested, what kind of textbooks or reference book they are trying to study. So you can have a database of this, like how many students refer to a book written by so and so in structural dynamics, or from a thermodynamics, or from mechanics of structure, or something like that you will have. So you can also easily note that yes, a book written by so and so is becoming more popular, and maybe it is more informative, and students are referring to those kind of books. So therefore, you can assess the demand. You can accordingly plan to procure those kind of resources which are useful to the students' community. And also, you can also have some kind of data analytics of student visiting the library. How many hours ERC come and sit here, how much they work. You can monitor them. You can have some electronic monitoring system also in place, and you can have some useful information or a critical derivatives from that kind of a data analytics, which should go as input to my boards of studies or to our university board of studies, so that they can plan accordingly the curriculum. So that means indirectly or directly, the librarians must participate in the design of curriculum. So that is where you will play a very important role. The other aspect is you must be a teacher. So during a student induction program in engineering colleges, normally librarians address the first year students about the facilities available, the procedure of issuing books, returning books, the protocols to be followed, and how many books are available, what are the areas in which books are available, working hours, etc., and about reference all information about the digital library and various other computer access or provisions which are made in the college, how many journals are there, how many of them physically procured, how e-consortium of VTU is working, what are the resources available on e-platform, etc. Such a big lecture. And also about the importance of learning, importance of going ahead with the professional education, etc. are taught by the librarians. So this is normally done in student induction program in engineering colleges. So I would request all the librarians to have this kind of a pattern. When you invite the first year students, when you conduct orientation classes in all the degree or postgraduate classes or even research scholars, librarian must address the student community, freshers when they come to the institution. And also you must make them comfortable with the resources available, and also you can take their feedback. Some of these students who are extremely active in not only in curricular activities, some of the additional skill set, they will also give you a feedback that yes sir, these are the type of books which are missing here. This is where I find interest in this area or course. You can procure this. So you can take feedback from them over a period of time. When especially in engineering, they stay with you for more than 3 years and 4 years. Lateral student 3 years, and the students who come from PUC background 4 years, they stay with you. A very, very, very important time they spend with you. Very critical time they spend with you. So therefore, a student-friendly nature of a librarian will definitely mold our students. And also, as I said, since you are very close to them, you will be able to address their personal problems also. That is another thing which librarians should participate throughout during the curricular activities. You can be a guide, very wonderful guide. You can also teach them professional ethics. You can also teach them universal human values. There are various online courses available. I think if you can, go through such kind of a course in Swayam or NPTEL, etc., there are various platforms, and there are various other organizations also teach about professional ethics, universal human values. You can pick. Even AICTE has conducted number of programs on that. VTU also has started a center on universal human value education system. So next, we are going to make a compulsory 2-credit course for the undergraduate program. So you can become a teacher there. You can be a part of that kind of an activity. So you can have that kind of a load on you, academic load on you, to build up the careers of students. So therefore, all these things when put together will help in the growth of education system, not only in this country, across the globe. So if you can able to network our libraries across the globe, I think it will be a fantastic idea to share the resources. And therefore, if you want to realize the aspirations of NEP in 2020, NEP 2020, we need to work together as a team. Not only that, we need to pick up newer technologies and upgrade our knowledge and skill set, so that we are very proficient in the usage of computers and information science, and we also have up-to-date knowledge to guide the present generation. Otherwise, they have definitely some information. So sometimes they are ahead of us in using the electronic gadgets and the laptops or palm tops or even smartphones. So therefore, it is extremely useful and helpful to learn the technology. For example, if you are able to develop some mobile apps, of course, along with the departments, a professor who is good in any kind of subject, he can develop some mobile apps or some information which can be given to the library. So librarian can send across to all the students as an educational material to learn, maybe during their tea break or coffee break in the college, etc. So some small 5 minutes or 6 minutes, learning material can be sent through WhatsApp or various platforms as mobile apps. They will be very useful. So within 5-6 minutes, they will able to learn a theorem or a practical application or some importance of the technology which has been recently invented or launched on, etc. So that kind of a 24/7 work culture must be there in libraries. Then only I think it is an important part. The role of library and librarians is completely justified. So therefore, I wish that you stay relevant and make very useful improvements in your skill set, especially in the usage of computer technology, and try to learn more on the various softwares or the applications available, especially in library science, and make use of ICT, information and computer science technology, to enhance your own skill set and knowledge, and also extend same to your student friends. With these few words, I once again thank you all for hearing me, and also I thank LIS Academy Bangalore for giving me an opportunity to share some of my thoughts on this very special day. With these few words, once again I thank you all for hearing me. Thank you.
Sir, thank you very much for the thought-provoking presidential address. Thank you one and all. Let us meet again on 9th January 2021 for the third LISA Distinguished Lecture of Professor H.A. Ranganath, former Director of NAC and former Vice Chancellor of Bangalore University. Thank you again. We have now reached the final part of the program. I request Dr. P.V. Konnur, President of LIS Academy, to propose vote of thanks.
Respected Speaker of Second Distinguished Lecture of LIS Academy, Prof. Anil Sahasrabudhe sir, Chairman of AICTE, New Delhi. President of this occasion, Prof.Karisiddappa, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Visvesvaraya Technological University, Belagavi. Dr. Meera, former Librarian of Raman Research Institute, Bangalore. It is indeed a proud moment for LIS Academy to organize its second distinguished lecture in its series of monthly lectures. LIS Academy is putting its humble efforts to enable the professionals to listen to the eminent personalities of our country and abroad, and contribute to the profession as per these great personalities' aspirations. I take this opportunity to thank Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe sir for delivering the second distinguished lecture of LIS Academy. Sir, your inspiring words will go a long way in preparing our professionals as warriors of education system in India. Your directions given to our profession will enable them to act as per your aspirations in implementation of NEP 2020. On behalf of LIS Academy and on behalf of my entire fraternity of LIS profession, I thank you profusely for your support and encouragement extended to us through your lecture. The president of this occasion and the lover of libraries and librarians, Professor Karisiddappa, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Visvesvaraya Technological University, Belagavi, has always been an admirer and supporter of LIS profession. Sir, I thank you very much for your inspiring words. We at LIS Academy will assure you that we will try our best to help the profession to tune up to your expectations. On behalf of LIS Academy and on behalf of the entire profession, I thank you for your support and encouragement extended to us through your presidential remarks. I thank Dr. Meera, former librarian of Raman Research Institute, for her excellent anchoring. I thank all participants for their active involvement in all LIS Academy events in general and this lecture in particular. As already mentioned by Dr. Meera, let us all meet for the third distinguished lecture of LIS Academy on Saturday, the 9th January 2021 to listen to Professor H.A. Ranganath, former director of NAC and former Vice Chancellor of Bangalore University, Bangalore. Thank you one and all.